Streaming health, good. So apparently it saved the last one, but I don't know.
I did see it. I watched 3 minutes of it while you were reading.
Though, because it's wrong. Our fans aren't going to know what's going on.
Oh, I'm sorry, fans.
So we took a family picture. Okay, wait. Ready?
I'm ready for
webcam. Ready? Oh, no one wants to see my email. We're going to make a new window over here. Oh, no, not Wirecrass. Went crass. Don't save. Sorry. Hold on. There we go. Just in case we have some web needs, we have Google ready to go.
Google ready.
And we have our GH4 and ready. This is the family photo shoot we had, or I had, in my family for Thanksgiving. And the cool thing about the GH4 is I just set up the GH4 and then had everybody
get together.
And I had the remote in my hand for my phone so I could remotely see. And as soon as I saw everyone was looking like ka-ching, 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 ka-ching.
I think the GH4 has better Wi-Fi because when I had my G7, it did not. There was a lag, and so I tried that once for a family picture, and
Didn't work.
I had to Photoshop a few heads. Let's just put it that way.
You're like way back on the different focal plane.
Oh, sorry, man. Sorry. I'm just low riding today.
You gotta come forward a little bit though, because my headphone cable is shorter than yours for some reason.
Well, this is like,
There goes our secret.
I know. It's for aesthetics.
Speaking of aesthetics,
It's wireless.
Look how cool these headphones are.
Yeah, they're trying out some prototypes from the old man. But yes, to answer your question, on the first version of the podcast, my Thanksgiving was great.
And we'd be using the GH3 to stream. See my cables, and I have like 6 of them.
If you can't find one, I have one. I have 2 of them that I never used because I finally got HDMI to micro, like straight cables without adapters. So.
Well, I think it's silly that the GH3 was mini, which is great, and then the GH4 went micro, which is ridiculous, I think.
I like the mini personally because I feel like it's a more robust connection.
Look, it's like remote cam.
Whoa.
See, look, there's our little setup right now.
There's their setup. I like this. This light is cool.
I do. I thought it was kind of gimmicky at first when I got it because I didn't think the output was
It's a great fill light.
But it's great for putting on stuff. And all right, I'm going to put this down now. It's snowing outside right now.
Yeah, well, we need to have a live webcam feed.
Wirecast has a cool iPhone app where you can walk around and
Really?
yeah, and it
send
doesn't
it?
sync audio at all. But yeah, you could walk around with it and have like a remote cam, or you could like stick it in the cut to it. I was going to do that and I totally forgot. Okay, but the kind people here are here to hear about.
We are talking about serious stuff today.
Renting versus buying. This is a huge question, and I keep kind of putting it off to talk about it because I feel like you need to do it justice. But you know what? Let's just talk about it.
Okay.
So, do you like renting gear or buying gear?
So, okay, you asked the wrong guy because I want to own everything.
Yes.
But I'm also, for the most part, unless I get a decent budget on a gig, I am what you would call a solo owner-operator, right? Mm-hmm. So I have some feelings, and it really comes down to the return on investment because, and your budget size and because I think, at least I'm guilty of this. I buy a lot of stuff that I bring to set and I use once for one show or one setup, and I never use it again.
Yeah, but you have it just in case.
I know, just in case we'll.
Okay, so here's the main question, right? This is what people ask me all the time.
Okay.
A couple things. Well, first off, it's like people talk about, you
Stream though, right? We can still keep going.
Yeah, I don't know how it tied. Okay, we're gonna pretend. I have no idea when it stopped. We're gonna pretend like
We're back.
I'm going to leave the webcam off and whatever. Okay, so renting versus buying. We're talking about that. When you're buying something, you own it. You have whenever schedule. You don't have to worry about picking it up. You can break it by accident.
Yes.
You can potentially charge more depending on your
True.
setup. The cons are you own it.
You own it.
Version 2 will come out very quickly usually. If something goes wrong, you have to fix it.
True.
And you have to put it somewhere.
Storage.
Whatever it is, you have to store it, okay? Pros and cons of renting. Pros of renting. You get to use high-end gear for pretty cheap.
Pretty cheap.
And you can look legitimate on set.
Okay.
That's a whole other topic to talk about.
True. 'Cause it depends on if it's your set or not.
It's true. So those are the only two I like about renting.
Really?
The cons about renting, I think, are you have to schedule the darn thing,
Yeah.
and there's always potential of it going wrong because it's a rental and it could be beat up, it could have issues, whatever.
Right.
And you don't get to take it home with you.
Right. So so there is a production company in Utah, a studio that hires me every once in a while, and the comment they made to me was they wanted to know what my gear list was, and they said, when I told them, their comment to me was, we like to hire people that have certain types of gear because we know if you own it, on set you're going to know how to use it, fix it, and get great results, versus every time, he said, basically every time that we've hired either a DP or an operator that's had to rent the equipment, they have never gotten the results they've wanted because they're fiddling with it. They're, if you got a Ronin M and it's yours and you know the quirks, just because you go rent one doesn't mean you're going to be able to use it. I mean, I totally agree with it. That was like, for me, the main thing that when they said that they had so many times where a piece of rental gear let them down because the operator just wasn't familiar with it. So
I was just making sure we had the right input going into the camera there.
So, but there has been times when there's been things that, because as a solo guy, like there's times where, and this is where I kind of do things different, like I'll rent you. So that's where I think collaboration, when you're just renting a piece of equipment, that's where I don't think you get the best. But when I like say, I've had pieces come out way better because I didn't just hire equipment, I hired you and equipment. And then I was able to figure out and work on the piece and not worry about certain things. So I think that might be another discussion, but
yeah.
When you bring on someone and can afford to in your budget to bring on someone with gear, along with it, instead of just going and buying gear, I think you have a lot better chance for success.
Okay, so, and I agree with you on that. I like to rent the drone operator whenever because I'm not a great drone pilot. So I like to get someone who's what they're doing. Same thing with like some serious jib shots. If you have a serious jib thing happening, I'm okay, but when you get those gears going or the joystick, I'm not the best. But anyway, okay, so having said that, I do own a couple jibs and a drone, which is kind of back to what we're talking about.
Right.
Cool. So the question people always ask me is, hey, if I buy this thing, or which one should I buy? Because if I buy this one, I can rent it out afterwards.
Right.
Because that's one that people kind of, and I've used as an excuse to buy things.
Right.
But let's talk about that. So for yourself.
Yes.
When you want to go buy something, you are going to be looking to buy something that works for you. And people go, okay, well, if I buy, a good example is, I've had people ask me about like follow focus.
Right.
Follow focuses. They say, should I buy this one, which is like $1,000, or should I buy this one, which is like $6,000?
Right.
Me, I bought the Red Rock Micro because that was, back in the day, that was the only indie cheap one you could get. I would love to have bought a Bertec, but is out of my price range. Now, I
Right.
could have thought to myself, oh, if I buy that, I can rent it out, or people will think I'm more legitimate, or whatever, which may be the case, but you got to think about where you're coming from.
Right.
Because if you're on set, okay, let's talk about lights for a second. And I apologize. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place because that's what
cool.
I do. It's my brain, right, working. So if you're on set and you have a client that knows anything about filmmaking, and you show up with lights that are homemade, are the cheap ones, are you only have open face, or you only have soft boxes with curlicue fluorescence.
Right.
People, they're not going to take you as seriously unless you compared to showing up with like Aries that are very recognizable.
Right.
Other, Mulbertsons or Kinos are very, very recognizable too. That's one totally on the surface aspect, because I am 100% into making my own lights and using things that just work and not playing that game of having to look legitimate.
Right.
Although you sometimes have to.
Yeah, I think maybe a good thing to point out is recognizing when you have projects that either you're going to be hiring people, or there are certain times when, if you recognize, hey, in order for me to either get this client as a long-term client, that there are certain things I need to check off the list so they can be a long-term client, then it's worth renting that day and getting those REs on set or having a sound guy there. But there's certain clients and certain circumstances where it's not necessary. And so I think just recognizing, hey, I really don't need that. Because I can tell you there's been a couple times where like I've rented something and I've showed up on set, and it's just because I told them it was in my gear list and we didn't end up using it. And so I rented for nothing that day, and we ended up using my homemade stuff.
Yeah, because it worked.
Because it works.
Make it work and
exactly.
Make it look right.
Yeah.
Because the funniest thing about this business is, if you can make it look right at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you get there, guys. There's really no official
Right.
way of doing things, unless you're working in an environment that it needs established systems, like a full-on feature film, like a big show. There are certain systems and ways and types and recognizes, and then that everyone can move together and make progress with, which you need to know and understand. But if you're doing things on your own, then it's totally
Right.
see that, and that's one of the reasons why I'm comfortable moving out of the Red ecosystem right now.
Right.
I was so against not upgrading my Red, I was against not doing it because I was afraid that if I did that, I'd be kind of out in the cold, as it were. But the cool thing about where in my business and what I've been doing the last few years is, when I bought my Red, I bought the Red. I have a couple nice, really, really nice PL zooms and lenses and things like that. That I was
Right.
like, this is going to be great. It establishes me as an established DP who can work and can fit into the system of current films out there. If somebody has an epic that they're shooting with in the Red primes, I can fit right in. And
Right.
It won't be a problem. Have I used my Red lenses like in the last 2 years? Like hardly at all. And that's because everything I'm doing is self-contained in this kind of my own little ecosystem. I got to be careful about not going too far away, but no one's asked me to shoot a feature film where we've had multiple cameras and needed certain specific things
To fit in there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Or if I've gone to shoot a feature the last couple of years, they want to do XYZ, and I say, hey, what if we do this? And they see that as better, and it has turned out better, and we've used different cameras and stuff, and it works better for their budget, their system, and the people around, and that way I'm kind of, I can dictate that versus being stuck something else.
Right. And I think a good way too is to try and get on productions or sets as PAs or ACs and just see what is expected. Because like I can tell you, like the sets here in Utah are probably a lot different and what you can get away with than the sets down in LA or in San Francisco or in New York. You may be able to show up with things here and not waste your money on things that that are expected in other demographics or budget levels. I think getting that experience is gonna, because you may be able to show up with a $50 shotgun mic and get sound that, but you show up with that kind of equipment in LA and they're just gonna hire the next guy on the call list. So
yeah, and that doesn't mean it doesn't mean we're always striving to provide the best product for the client as possible.
right.
But here's a good example of renting versus buying. I know I've benefited from a few times from guys selling their lights who jumped right in and purchased
Right.
and couldn't then afford in the long run because they spent so much on a couple of Kinos and a couple of things like that. And the work that they were doing didn't support that necessarily.
Right. It wasn't long. They couldn't support it long term. They probably had a project that it made sense to have that stuff, or they had a project and then they had a bunch of pickups. So having like a portable set of lights worked. But then once they were done with that feature, they really had no use for it. The other thing I really think is at least that you and I at least do a lot is, or at least I do, I buy used. I buy used because, first of all, I don't know if I'm going to like it. And second of all, I don't know what the longevity is. If I buy something used and it works and works and works and works, the next time I'm going to buy that brand new. But up front, I paid a lot less. And so that risk is a little bit less because you bought used. So I think buying used, especially if you're going to go beyond your budget. You know, I know that if you're going to buy a $5,000 follow focus and you can't afford that, you might look for a while for a used one that's $5,000, but it's priced at $2,500 and you can get into it. So that's another thing is buying used.
So I'm going to maybe just bring it home a little if that's okay, if
Yeah.
we're going like 10 minutes. Here's my heart.